right, I've made myself a hot chocolate, ready to dive in. Yeah, that's the stuff. Okay, so as a kid, reading and writing was everything to me. Like, you could not take me away from books, writing them myself. And even like, I remember I would literally stay up in my bed till like, well, what was late to me then was like midnight. But I would just spend ages in my room writing, reading loads of stupid books like Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Throughout the later years of my life, I lost that passion of reading and writing. If I was to give one direct factor to that, I would say it was school stress. You know, GCSEs came around and it just became quite a stress to keep going with reading. And I got very into video games and became very antisocial. I definitely fell victim to the infinite scroll that is social media, which kind of just shattered my attention span, as I'm sure it has for a lot of you people. So combining all that with playing video games all the time, reading just didn't seem as fun. You know, why read a book when I could just play a video game, play Overwatch, play Minecraft? Why would I read when it's just not stimulating? And looking back on it, that's just really sad because, you know, something that was so key to my life as a child, and just losing that completely is baffling to me. So yeah, I wanted to make this video just about getting back into reading, as I'm sure you can tell by the title, but getting back into reading lately has been incredibly beneficial to me, to the people around me, and I just kind of wanted to get on here and talk about that. I haven't really felt the passion to make a video in a long time. And I don't know, yesterday I just had a little spark and I was just like, this is something that I really want to talk about. Oh my God. So yeah, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Twitter's a really bad one for me, but how it's just killed off my attention span, and most people my age, is really sad. And I'm sure everyone's had that thing where they're like, oh, I'm going to delete TikTok and Instagram and I'm not going to scroll anymore, and then they reinstall it. It's just a cycle. Because recently, the other day, I deleted TikTok and Twitter off my phone. I noticed I was just grabbing at my phone and like looking for it. When you have that compulsion to waste time, technically wasting time, it can't be good. So I'm going to try and stay off it for as long as I can and use that time that I would spend scrolling on something better. So if I fell out of love with reading, you're probably wondering how I got back into it. Now, I love horror. I love horror media. I think it's just great. Getting the feeling of fear from something that isn't real is something that I find really interesting, how content and media can create emotions for you. I find that really interesting. And I've always really been intrigued to Stephen King and his work. And Pet Sematary was a book that really just appealed to me, and I wasn't sure why. It just, every time I heard about it or saw anything to do with Pet Sematary, I was just really like, that looks cool. And I also knew nothing about it going in. But I was talking to my mum one day, and she reads a lot on the Kindle app on her phone, and that can be quite beneficial because they're a lot cheaper. And I just kind of said to myself, that's something that I would like to do. It's been a long time since I've read anything, so I really would like to get back into it. And I just thought, what better way to start than a book that's kind of intrigued me for a while. So I just installed the Kindle app on my Amazon account, bought Pet Sematary, and just started reading it. Instantly, I was hooked. It was like the book spoke to me. Something about Stephen King's writing and the way he just breaks out from tradition, and the way his writing style just is so human and invasive, it just really appealed to me, and I just couldn't put it down. So my dad had a Kindle, and he never really used it, and he heard that I was reading this book, and he was just like, well, why not, instead of reading it on your phone in a really small screen, use my Kindle? So he lended this to me, and it's still technically being lent to me, but it's kind of mine now. But this Kindle has been so cool to me. But yeah, after reading Pet Sematary, I realized that I had revived an old passion, and I just wanted more to read, whether that was Stephen King or other things I was interested in. I've been very into comic books. I have a comic collection up there, which I'm quite proud of actually, but people can argue that that's not reading, it's more of a picture book, which they're not wrong, but it can have some really interesting stories, and I'm really passionate about those kind of characters in comic books, and Marvel and DC and Batman and Daredevil and all those things. The feeling of just reading a real story, like a real book, and, you know, not having pictures, having my imagination just run wild and picturing these vast landscapes, Stephen King's fog and mist and all that kind of stuff was just a feeling that I had really missed, but I didn't know that I missed it. Sorry, just 1 second. I don't want that to go cold, so, So I finished Pet Sematary on the 9th of August, and since then I've read a few more books. But me and my best friend Cage, we had been watching the TV show Game of Thrones, and I really just didn't know that I was so into fantasy. I became obsessed with this show in seconds, and I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I thought, if I could bring that kind of obsession into reading, then that would be perfect. And obviously I knew Game of Thrones was a book adaptation, but I wanted to get something a bit different. I didn't want to just read what I've just watched. So I went a bit further and read Fire and Blood by George R.R. Martin, which is a prequel book to Game of Thrones and is what the TV show House of the Dragon is based on. And oh my god, it was incredible. It was the first long book I've read in a while, because Pet Sematary was only 300 to 400 pages, whereas Fire and Blood was about 800, so it took me a lot longer to read, but oh my god, it is so interesting. In my opinion, it is more interesting than real history at points, because I don't see anywhere in real history having the battle above the god's eye. But I just loved the style that it was written in, how it felt real, and it felt like I was reading a real life history book, but of something that I was really hooked on. But yeah, Fire and Blood was insanely good. So then I kept going. I realized I really, really liked fantasy and there was more I could do. So I went and read The Hobbit. Now, I really liked this book. I thought it was really fun, whimsical, sweet, just a very nice, cozy book. Obviously, Tolkien made it to read to his children, so it wasn't very mature, and I felt at points it was just people on an adventure getting stopped by little things, and then it just, I can't really explain it, but it just didn't really hook me. But I really liked the characters. I thought Bilbo Baggins and the way he presented himself and how attached I was to his character was really cool, and I didn't want to let him go. So the only thing that felt right to me next was to read Lord of the Rings. Now, this is what I am currently reading. I'm on chapter 16 of The Fellowship, so book 1, page 367 of 450. Now, these books are actually one book that was just split into 3 for marketing reasons and money. So I'm just about to finish the first book, and oh my god, it is so good. Holy shit, Lord of the Rings is amazing. Now, I've watched the first film in a bit before, but ages ago, and I just couldn't get into it because it was so long, and I'd had to watch the extended editions, but I was also a lot younger then, and my attention span, like I said, was pretty... So getting back into this and just reading it over time and getting hooked into the world and feeling Tolkien's writing has just been an experience like nothing else. I mean, Gandalf is so cool. That's it. He's a wizard and he's just sick. Now, I'm quite busy because I work a 9 to 5 and I'm really hooked on this book, so I just really want to read it as much as possible. And obviously I don't have much time to read it. So what I do is I listen to the audiobook, listen to a chapter, and then read, when I can, the chapter where I left off. So the other day I was walking my dog and I was on the chapter where Gandalf goes, "You shall not pass!" Which actually in the book was "You cannot pass," and I think I prefer the movie version, but it was just incredible. The way Tolkien wrote that scene and the Balrog coming up, and it was, oh my god, my imagination was going insane. Gandalf dies, obviously he comes back to life. Sorry if I just spoiled that for you, but it's from 1960s, I think, so, catch up. And then Frodo weeps and Sam weeps and everyone's just sad, and I was just walking my dog and I was trying not to cry, and I was just like, this is incredible, it's so fucking good. So yeah, I'm currently reading The Lord of the Rings, and it's gonna take me a long time to finish because it is a really long book. But I'm okay with that. I think it's just so fun to get so into a universe, and I genuinely care about the characters. Aragorn is so cool. Boromir feels like the most human one out of all of them, and Frodo, Sam, everyone is just so good. But yeah, I do think reading has really brought an excitement to a pretty hard time, as my auntie has recently had a stroke and isn't going to make it. Seeing the effect it's had on my family has been really difficult, and trying to be as supportive as possible and help around the house and whatnot has been really hard. So having the ability to get distracted and lost in a universe and so attached to characters has just been great. But the really annoying thing is that I have so much that I want to read. I want to read Misery by Stephen King. I want to read The Dark Tower. I've even got it right up here. I'm still in the middle of an 1,200 page book, and I bought the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. I bought the first one. I'm not going to read this for ages. For my birthday, which is in a few weeks, I've asked my girlfriend to get me the Game of Thrones entire book box set, which I probably won't read for ages, but I want it, and I want to be able to read it eventually, and I'm going to put it up on my shelf. So you can probably tell I have quite an obsessive personality, and reading has become quite the hyperfixation lately. But I think that's okay, because I wouldn't change how passionate I am about things. It makes me work harder, and I just feel so lucky to be able to consume such rich and enthralling content. Like, all I want to do right now, I'm filming this video, but all I want to do right now is read The Lord of the Rings. It's so good, and I've got about 2 chapters left of the first book. So yeah, I just really wanted to make this video to kind of talk about reigniting old passions and obsessions and refinding an old love. In this case, it is reading, and it has just been so great for me, and I really don't want to let it go. I don't want this to just be an obsession and then it goes. I want this to stick, and I'm gonna make the effort for it to stick. So I'm gonna keep reading and keep expanding my imagination and just keep enjoying it, because it's really got me. So yeah, hot chocolate's done, and the point I want to end on is, you know, think about what you used to love when you were a kid and try and find it again. For me, it's reading, but I don't know what it could be for you. It's not going to do any harm to spend some of your free time trying to get back into something and then possibly finding that you love it and you've missed it. So yeah, I'm going to stop rambling and I'm going to read The Lord of the Rings. But I hope you enjoyed this video and hope possibly you learned something, or if not, just felt very chill and cozy while I talked. So yeah, love you all, stay safe, and peace out.